This is the ASUS ROG Ally after the hype. This is not going to be just a straight review about all the details that this has, how much power it has, and like the number game. I'm going to go over the kind of like a user review after having it for over, I would say, 1.5, almost 2 months. How do I rate this device? How do I like it? So kind of like a longer term review and more of like other things that I noticed while using the device. First off, I have to say it, the feeling of playing AAA games on a handheld, that is just such a beautiful feeling. I literally remember getting the original Nintendo Switch and telling Evie that I wish that we had something like this that can play. At the time I was talking about the Division 2, and I wish that I could play the Division 2 on a handheld device like this, or like Rainbow Six Siege at the time, and Call of Duties and everything else. And I said like I would love that kind of a device, but I know it's just so far-fetched to think that you could have like a proper console gaming on the go. And here we are, we have a console thing, kind of in a way, like a console PC, that I can play AAA games on the go, in my bed, anywhere I want to go. I can take this with me and play big games in really good quality. So the first thing is you're definitely gonna feel that everything just looks really good. You can actually play in nice settings a lot of the games, and for some you have to dial a little bit back, but because the screen isn't too big, it's gonna hide the imperfections in the games. So even if you have less details or something would be on par with the console version, because it's a smaller screen, you're not gonna have something that you're like, oh, I see the textures are not as good as they could be here, which I kind of noticed playing Valhalla. Because it's smaller screen, you kind of don't notice the imperfections, but when playing on bigger screen on a different console, you kind of see like, oh, the textures aren't that perfect here. Which brings me to this being a very powerful and versatile device. I really like that it's very powerful for its size, which I would say I would call it like a Nintendo Switch Pro, because it's not much bigger, but also it's much stronger. It's really powerful, and I love that I can have such a powerful device in the palm of my hands. I really love the feeling of having pretty much any game I want to play, I could probably play on this. And also the versatility. I know I'm gonna use it probably 99% of the time as like a gaming console kind of thing, but to be honest, this can actually be a hybrid console or a hybrid PC. I did, for example, testing if I could actually add it on this. I added it on this device with this screen. You can actually hook it up to an external monitor and have like mouse and keyboard, and literally have this in the dock on the side, and then have everything in front of you, and it didn't really feel different than having a normal PC or having like a laptop connected to it. This is strong enough to edit videos. So literally you could have this as like a all-in-one device where at home you can edit on this and then take it with you and just, you know, lay on the bed and play some video games. Like, it's a really cool device that has so much versatility in one single device. There's also good things and bad things about this having the Windows 11. In a way, there's a couple things that are good because of it, and this is why I chose this over the competition, but also there are a couple of things that, because it's a Windows, it has its quirks and, you know, problems. It's a thing that is both really good for the system and a little bit, you know, its downfall in some aspects. For example, I love that it's a Windows because I can, like I said, do so many different things. I have Notion on this, I have, you know, DaVinci Resolve for editing, and I can literally do anything I wanted to on this device. But also, because it's a Windows, for example, the sleep function is pretty much non-existent. You cannot just turn on and then have the game where it was like yesterday. You pretty much have to use it like a PC, so you end the gaming session, turn it off, put it away, and that is how kind of you have to use it. There is not really a normal sleep function like the consoles or the SteamOS has on the Steam Deck, so that is something that I wish they could have kind of made it different, but this is more about the Windows, not the ASUS ROG Ally, but because it runs on the Windows, that is how it works. But more about the negatives of this device later in the video. For me, this size is something that I really like. I know for some it's gonna be too small or too big, depends on the use case scenario, but if you are looking for a handheld PC and you're like me that you want to potentially take it somewhere farther with you, like on a plane or maybe on a train, and you want to have something that is a little bit more lightweight, because in my case I have so much camera gear that usually the gaming console is like the last thing that I put in, and Nintendo Switch was a nice addition to it. But usually I would find myself playing games that I don't really want to play at the moment, just rather, oh, I have this console, I'm gonna play something on it. But this really makes it so much different, because I can literally play my AAA games on this device and anywhere in the world. So in my opinion, it's really nice because it's really lightweight, it's not too heavy, the screen size, this overall size is very nice, so it's really like, for me, it's a perfect size. But like I said, I know some people might want to have a bigger screen, so they would have to go for the competition. But for me, this is like a nice way of having a solid device that is not too big, not too heavy, but still very solid and nice to play with. And another two things that I love about this device is definitely the screen and the speakers. The screen itself is a 7-inch Full HD up to 120Hz display, which is an LCD, but is a very nice high quality LCD. In my opinion, it really is bridging the gap to the OLEDs, because that's how good it is, that's how good it looks, but it's still an LCD, so there's going to be things that are never going to be as good on this compared to like an OLED. But this is a very high quality LCD display. And not only that, is not only Full HD and 120Hz display, it actually has VRR, which means that if you're playing, for example, I was playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla in 18W mode, which is a custom mode, and I was playing in Full HD, about 40, 50, I would say the lowest it would go to like 35, and then up to like 60 frames per second. As long as it was about 40 and more, the VRR really kicks in and can really not tell the difference between the different frame rates. So if you literally take off the overlay where you see the frames per second and just play and enjoy the game, you're not gonna feel too much different if it's gonna be like 58 frames or it's gonna be 45 frames, because the VRR really makes it look so much better, makes it much more smoother, and there's no screen tearing. And to go with that, the speakers are really, really good. Not only they're positioned in a perfect way, that way so that if you're like playing one for each ear, so it's kind of like a surround system, and I'm not gonna lie, it kind of feels like a surround system because they're pretty much perfectly aimed at one of each ears, but also just the way it sounds is going to you, not somewhere else, and they're really nice speakers. To be honest, that was one of the things that was like the highlight when we got this. The screen was very nice, we're like really optimistic about this, like it's beautiful, feels really good, and then we hear the sounds coming from this, and that was like, wow, this device really sounds great. But now let's talk about the couple minuses that I have about this device. First off, it's gotta be the battery. I wish it was a little bit more, and I know I'm asking for a lot because we're playing AAA games on a handheld device this big. It's kind of like a personal thing that I kind of like, I'm a little bit dreaming, but wish that I could play a little bit longer so that this session could be potentially like on an airplane a little bit longer. And I know you can mitigate this if you have like a external power source. For example, you can charge it, or maybe on the plane you can charge it with the power socket, but also if you have like a power bank, you can extend the battery life. So there are different ways to actually extend the usage of this device, but I just wish the base battery in here could have been a little bit bigger, stronger, whatever could be different to make this device just last a little bit longer, but I know that's asking for a lot. Also, the storage in the base model, the 512 gigabytes of storage, isn't too much. I just wish it would be with 1 terabyte of storage. I know for some it's not gonna be a difference because some people just play indie games on this kind of devices or like smaller games, so you're not really gonna take advantage of that more storage. But if you're like me and you want to have those AAA games, and for example you want to have like 3 games that are always on your system, for example like Forza Horizon 5 for racing, Call of Duty Warzone for like shooting, and then have like Assassin's Creed Valhalla for your action adventure RPG game, you kind of filled it up if you can even have all those 3 games on it at the same time. So you can't really play around with any other games. And what if you want to add like a Genshin Impact, or you want to add a Warframe, or you want to add anything else? There's no space. So that is why I am personally upgrading to 2 terabytes of storage. Like I said, I just wish it was something that was out of the box. But like I also said, you can upgrade it, so it's something that you can actually change. It's something that you have to invest more into the device, which is already not a cheap compared to like having a normal console. But I guess it's, such a versatile device and such powerful and I would say niche and unique device that I know it's gonna be premium price for having something so small and so strong. But like I said, I just wish there was a little bit more storage inside of it. If it was like a 1 terabyte, maybe I would not be upgrading, but I want to have a little bit more games on the device than I can with the normal storage of 500 gigabytes. And the plus and the minus of this being pretty much like a PC handheld, well, because it's a Windows 11, there's some good things, but also some bad things, like the setup is slightly longer than having like a console or like a Steam Deck, Nintendo Switch, or any other devices like that. They're just much quicker to set up and start playing. This has a lot more, setting up like a normal laptop or computer, then all the updates through the 3 different programs and Windows updates and ASUS updates and ROG Armor Crate. Everything has to have updates. So there's a lot of setup between starting the device and playing for the first time. Once you set it up, it's much quicker and just easier to use, and you kind of love that it's a PC. I wish this was a little bit faster in that regard. So yes, this is like a big minus and a plus being a Windows 11 PC handheld. Like I mentioned also before, the sleep, there's no sleep, so that is one of the things that I kind of dislike about this, which I wish could have been changed. And last but not least is an issue that doesn't really affect me because I don't use it, but I know people reported that the SD cards can be fried because they're put in the right spot, right by the ventilation of this device. So where the heat is being pulled out of the device or blown out is right where this SD card slot is, and because of that, well, it can fry the SD card. It's not something that actually happened to me. I don't even have an SD card in it. The only time I used it when I was transferring data from the camera to this for editing, and it worked perfectly fine. But I know that if you want to play with it and like play games from it, that can be not too good and can actually fry the SD card. So that is kind of an issue that they could possibly put it in a different space for the next iteration. Overall, the ASUS ROG Ally is just a beautiful device that is so nice to have and have access to all of your games in the palm of your hands. And for some, like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, you can play on the big screen on a different console and then play on it while maybe you're on a sofa, on your bed, somewhere else. You can really play all of your games in pretty good settings. It's really strong and it's just such a beautiful device to have with you if you're into that kind of stuff. And it's also so versatile. So in my opinion, it's just a cool thing to have, a cool gadget. It's going to be different depending on your use case scenario, how much time you have, and I'm sure a lot of people, they're going to enjoy that they can get out of their desk setup, go somewhere else and still play the games. If you have any questions about the ASUS ROG Ally, leave them in the comments down below. So with that being said, that's gonna be it for today's video. I hope you guys learned something new today. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed this video once again, and I'll see you next time.